It's such an intriguing pull, isn't it? The promise of being able to do what you love for a living. And by no means is it like not possible or something, but the problem that comes from it is the little caveats along the way, some of the traps and problems that people become a part of. Now my goal with this video is to continue helping you along that path without making some really big mistakes. Thank you to Oxygen for sponsoring this video. I'll tell you a little later what they're all about. The art industry in almost all its forms, whether it's games and animation, whether it's freelancers, is an interesting one. There's a lot of stigmas that certain people create that then control how certain things are done, which is a little bit silly when you think about it. Now, for example, we've talked plenty before in my video called Art Should Be Free, which through being in quotations shows that I'm quoting those who I feel are wrong, not making that statement myself, as some of the commenters instantly assumed. That video was about the folks who will demand that art should be free or should cost a lot less because of whatever arbitrary reason they have. What happens then is that creative people like ourselves, who either don't feel confident enough to charge what they're worth, or who feel the need to competitively price their work, or even give in to the people that undervalue the work. And while it isn't incredibly dramatic, it deals damage to your own worth, to the entirety of the industry, and it kind of brings down the value just ever so subtly. And as the person doing the work, you aren't doing yourself any favors when you undercut yourself. But here's a fallacy that I see a lot of newer people fall into. They're just starting out as an artist or haven't been doing it that long. Their work isn't really a good caliber yet. They still have a lot to learn, but they get impatient. They go, I don't care what I get paid, if I get paid at all, I just want this to be the work that I do. So they start taking $5, $10, $20 commissions. And their thinking is, I'm not good yet, but I want to learn through doing this, or I just want to start making money with this, or I don't really care, I would have done this anyway. Or they're desperate to get into this realm of work in any way. And what this does is it kind of cuts out this middle portion of the journey to an extent. It's like watching the first act of a movie and then skipping ahead to the end. Even worse, when things are difficult, your work isn't quite at the quality where it would be in demand or in a place where a client could hire you. And when you aren't charging a fair enough wage to sustain you, all of those things can quickly burn you out. So that eventually you get to a place where you dislike doing or are resentful of or even hating this kind of work. Plus, when your income and livelihood depend on your ability to be creative, it can burn you out even faster. So as hard as it can be sometimes, there is a sort of optimal practice to follow. And it's this: as you build up and improve your work, have a job outside of the field you're working toward that supports you. This way, when you're learning, practicing, building up a body of work, you're taken care of. Then, as you start to get to a point where you could take on work, you can charge what you're worth instead of desperately doing it for anything. And that's because you're already taken care of from your primary source of income. Now, I know that this scenario is so much easier said than done. And let me tell you, during a period of time where I should have been ideally finishing up some essential learning and getting my work in a good place, there was really no work in our area. I tried to get work doing something that wasn't art related, and it was essentially impossible. So I totally understand that getting a livable wage in the first place is really difficult. I know because I've been there. So I'm putting this forward not as a, here's what I did and things worked out fine. It's, don't go the same route that I did in that scenario. Because as I tried to build my freelance work in that period, my progress and growth was actually really slow. Now, let's say you've already got the body of work, you're in a good place to potentially get work. What now? Well, this is the point where you need to develop some non-art related skills, namely marketing, business sense, and people skills. Because your best case scenario here will be that clients and people that pay you come to you for work, instead of you going to them, pitching, bidding, and maybe ultimately undercutting yourself. So you need to set up the runway, if you will, for people to find you. Having a portfolio is absolutely necessary. What goes in the portfolio? Well, only the kind of work that you want to get work doing. A lot of times people will put every scrap of work, every logo they've designed, every sketch of a character, but they want to be an animator or they want to be a modeler. So the thinking here is that by providing this wide array of work, you seem more versatile, which can be good. The problem is that having so much on display, even if it is good work, can muddy the waters and confuse what you have to offer. It may also have the side effect of looking desperate. And the other problem is you're only as strong as your weakest work, so those logos that aren't really your forte might be dragging the rest of it down. Now, as much as finished, polished work is good, also make sure to show your process and some of the in-progress steps for some of your best work too. There are a couple of different ways that people find work in art. Some get positions in-house as designers or artists at studios or companies, and they get treated like employees. But more often though, and I've found especially in animation, your work is going to be as a freelancer. So you aren't an employee, and as soon as the project is done, so is your working relationship, at least for now. So freelancing has its ups and downs. The reaction that most people have to freelance is, hey, teacher's gone, no rules, party. And there are some benefits and freedoms, but you also need to be a little bit more resourceful. That's why it's a great practice to have in mind or look for work that you're going to be doing next, once this project is done. If you're working as an animator for 3 months on a project, don't wait for those 3 months to be up to find your next work. Otherwise, you might have an extended period of downtime, and that's too close to comfort for your bills. Speaking of freelancing as an artist, you'll probably find quickly that trying to be a business person on top of being an artist can be pretty daunting. And that's where a service like Oxygen comes in handy. So it's a bank that's built with freelancers in mind. So like other banks, not only do they let you set up your own account, they send you a card that can be used at ATMs, all manageable within their really nice, clean app. But they also help you keep track of everything freelance specific, your 1099s, your invoices, plus you can even set up your own limited liability corporation or LLC within the app and get access to credit once you've been banking with them for 90 days, a little bit of cash flow when you need it. Most banks aren't going to be quite as kind to freelancers. They'll want to see your very consistent weekly income and certainty, which freelancers don't tend to have. And it also keeps track of your incoming and outgoing expenses so that you can kind of get a better picture of your freelance work overall. For me, freelancing comes with a lot of uncertainty, but with something like Oxygen, I don't necessarily need to feel uncertainty, which I think is worth it on its own. Thanks to Oxygen for helping keep the channel going. Head to the first link in the description below to find out more about Oxygen. The second Biko's backpack is available now, along with everything else you get through Patreon. If you like my work and this channel, head over there to keep the forge burning. Thank you for watching, and have fun creating.